Hello and welcome to another podcast of Rock and Ramble, where we always talk about all the legendary times of the 80s, 90s, 2000s, all the way up to today. We love to have a good time with you guys. We love to share our cocktails and drinks and tell some funny stories and talk about all the music that's out there today, the music that was out there back then, and all the dumb shit that we did in between. Unfortunately, today we bring a different kind of a podcast, a little bit of a heavy heart. One of the legendary members of the rock and roll and heavy metal community is no longer with us. Ozzy Osbourne has passed away.
R.I.P. Ozzy.
At the age of 76 years old, only weeks after that legendary performance of Back to the Beginning.
Yeah, crazy.
In Birmingham, England.
Yeah.
And
we were just talking about that.
We just put a podcast out that was before he passed. We recorded it before he passed. Right after the show, we decided to do a recording about it. You can check it out on our podcast. That was pre-Ozzy's death. And just sadness has gone through the whole community of music.
Yeah.
A lot of members, not just of his band, but of his family and of the rock and roll community are very saddened today because of Ozzy's passing.
Yeah, they had a lot of nice tributes on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for Star and all that kind of stuff, where they had the whole flower arrangements, and you just never thought that this day would come. I guess you
thought that he would be almost like a father figure.
Yeah, even with battling Parkinson's and all that stuff, you just felt no, not Ozzy.
You thought he'd be there forever.
Yeah,
he would never leave us.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, like everybody, in their time is going to come. His time has come. The bell has been rung.
Yeah. The
man above has called him up. Well, we hope that's where he went to.
Yeah.
He had a lot of...
So let's talk a little bit about that, because obviously there was a little bit of unknown as to, cause of death. Hasn't been released yet. But
I think on the social media pages, we originally put out a different statement, and then we pulled it back and toned it down a little bit. And the reason was because we wanted the opinion to come here directly on the show.
Yeah.
And what we feel... Or actually, not even what we feel. It's more of a debate, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of talks, and social media is absolutely blowing up right now about how Ozzy physically passed. And I think the biggest thing people are asking, and they had spoken about it previously, Sharon and Ozzy were very open to it a couple of years ago in an interview about an assisted suicide.
Yeah.
And people are wondering, is that what happened? It's so coincidental that he just did a show 2 weeks ago, and now he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many different avenues and angles of this as to what the human body and human mind does. I don't know which way to go.
Right.
I believe, could it be assisted suicide? It definitely could be.
If you think about it, here, he did this last show, right, where he got to do what he's always loved to do, and that's perform in front of the fans that he loved and adored. With all these amazing musicians and artists, doing the show with him in front of his home crowd. If you think about it, what better way to go out if that's what you're choosing to do? I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying if that's your choice, right?
Well, let's dig into it a little bit. Okay, so we talked about, and quickly, and we'll go through the whole process of both sides of it. So the Sharon, once again, and Ozzy both publicly said if they ever came into an illness, an incurable illness, that they would...
They weren't opposed to it, right?
They would assist
right,
in each other's assisted suicide.
Right, but Kelly, their daughter, and Jack, I believe, both came out and vehemently denied that, right?
And understandable.
Understandably so, right?
And I believe anybody in this moment in time right now would come to the defense of something maybe that they didn't want out there.
Or misconstrued or something like that.
Correct.
Right.
And I believe, we don't really know. Will it ever come out? We don't know. A lot of times,
it may not.
Especially public doesn't always see everything.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes it can be hidden. So we might not ever find out. This is just a conversation of what we think or what you think and what information we have of what we've heard, what's been talked about, and what statements we have from the past.
Right.
Right. And the assisted suicide, I think I mentioned this to you a little bit earlier, but I went to my chiropractor the other day, and as I was there, we talked about this. And I before we did this podcast, I talked to him about this specific topic and how people were talking about this. And his answer was he is all for it. He believes if somebody has an ailment, an illness, something
terminal,
incurable,
right?
Terminal.
Yep.
That why should they have to live through the pain, the agony, and the suffering? He went on a little more to say about, maybe somebody that's even mental, maybe has tried to get psychologists to help them.
Mm-hmm.
They're unable to, and at what point can somebody make that decision? I guess it would be similar to like people's view on abortion.
Yeah.
I think that there's a side for both, and I believe that. I don't like to walk the political side or things like this, but I do believe and I understand if he's going to live a horrible life of Parkinson's and struggle through that
without quality of life or any of that, I mean, it's just such a personal decision. Why can't it be there?
Why would
that
it
decision?
not be an option for somebody in that situation? I can believe that, and if that's what happened, God bless him.
Yeah.
God bless him. He was here for 76 beautiful years. He left a legacy behind. He was a major backbone and staple in the heavy metal music and what became of it after.
Which we're going to get into the biography and career of Sabbath, his solo, and all that stuff. Yeah, what a mark he has left on, rock and roll and heavy metal music.
He has, not only is it the people that he played with, but the people that he surrounded himself with, and all of his fans and following through all the years.
And the bands that he gave opportunities, right?
Sure.
To, tour with him, gave them exposure, and, allowed them to start off their amazing careers.
I don't want to veer off too much because I want to give the other side of this assisted suicide thing we talked about, right? So the other side of this, I've been listening to a few different interviews and been able to catch a couple glimpses of some of the bandmates that were with him through the last show. A couple of them, including members of Black Sabbath, had come out and stated that Ozzy did not look well when he came for the rehearsals. He couldn't make it through an entire rehearsal. They had to just do a few songs. He was wheeled in a wheelchair, didn't look well, couldn't walk. People thought that he wasn't going to be long for life anyway. So it very well could have just been the passing. It could have just been the death. We talked about the will. I said about the will and the want. I believe that he really wanted and was willing himself for this show.
Yeah.
And I believe, just like when you get a horrible disease, whether it be something like cancer, and they say that your willpower is everything, and without that you have a slim chance of succeeding or beating whatever it is. I believe that his willpower is what pushed him to do this last show.
Yeah.
I think he wanted to be there for one last show. Now, does that mean that he just faded out and 2 weeks later he passed away because he gave up after it was all over and he had done what he wanted and felt that his life was now satisfied? Or was it assisted suicide and help from somebody else on the out that didn't want him to suffer?
Yeah.
And
we don't know that. So.
Either way, Ozzy's still Ozzy.
Yeah.
Ozzy's still going to be a legend. The music and what he's created between the members of the bands that he was in will live on forever.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I mean, for me personally, was it sad to just see him, on stage, just sitting there knowing full well how much he would have wanted to be, running around that stage and getting everybody clapping and all that stuff. But you can still feel that he was feeding off of the adrenaline, the energy, and giving it everything he had because, again, he loved to perform in front of his fans. And you can see that he was giving everything he had.
He was a true showman that wanted to give everything to his fans. You can't say much. You can't say anything negative really about the legend of the music and what he leaves behind. Yeah. Now, what happened in between his whole life, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
And we're going to dig into some of that. I mean, obviously, we talked a little bit about some of the you and I spoke off the air about the bands and stuff. And Black Sabbath formed in 1969. They lived in Birmingham. It was a very poor community they all came from. They formed a band like we would form in a garage, a bunch of friends getting together, and decided to start a band which became a Black Sabbath.
And just for the record, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward, Ozzy,
the
original members.
Original members.
Yep.
And the first time those members played together.
Yeah.
And that was a whole nother thing that back to the beginning. The fact that they got back together and they all performed the show and they all did it together. That's amazing.
That's special too itself.
It's very special because a lot of bands that are out there. I mean, look, Zeppelin's going to be going on this tour, and they don't have John Bonham.
Right.
They're going to do it with Jason.
Right.
Not that doesn't mean that it's not worth seeing or that's not going to be a great tour and a great show, but not everybody can do it like they did it.
Right.
And then when Ozzy went up and obviously he performed with his own solo, he had some of his guys, Jakey Lee and Zach Wilde, coming up and playing with them. Obviously, unfortunately, R.I.P. Randy Rhoads, he wasn't able to be there.
But that was bitching to see well, Zach, of course, but to see Jakey up there too, because I think he did Ultimate Sin with Lizzie Hale.
They did.
And I tell you, he sounded so good. He really did.
And the artists coming together for this whole thing, it just shows the passion they had.
And the appreciation for obviously what Ozzy brought
Osbourne and what he brought.
Music.
Without Black Sabbath, music, I don't believe, is the same that it is today.
No, because we talked about this again, that really, if you think about what Sabbath brought and were the originators of, is that real heavy metal sound, that deep, dark, those riffs, the chords, that made heavy metal what it is.
And
right?
maybe it took all those drugs that they took, and maybe it took everything they did to basically tell everybody, fuck you, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to do it, and this is our music.
Yeah.
And they built a quick following.
Yeah.
They really did.
Iron Man, Paranoid, Mr. Crowley, all these like dark, crazy songs, right? Those are songs that fueled a generation of musicians, right? That
for
wanted
years to start and years to come.
Right, for years to come. So
bands like the Scorpions formed this. We talk about '66, and they, at that time, they didn't really have a platform.
Yeah.
And then once Black Sabbath paved the way, then became an area for bands like the Scorpions and these bands to come out.
Right.
Because when Black Sabbath came out, it was bands like Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Bands like Cream. Bands like Steppenwolf.
And to your point with the Scorpions, even though they actually, like to your point again, they started before Sabbath, they had a hard time breaking into the American market because there wasn't that platform, right? Until Sabbath.
Black Sabbath came through and really paved the way. And paved the way for a lot of artists, not just the ones we're talking about, but artists for years to come. We talked a little bit about Quiet Riot in the 80s and the hair bands, right? That they were the first one to actually get that elusive record deal and really paved the way for the rest of the hair bands to get the deals when they started flying out the doors through the whole 80s and early 90s.
Right.
And that's the same thing that Black Sabbath and Ozzy brought.
Yep.
I mean, they brought that same road and helped everybody to push along. And I don't believe that there's an artist that you could talk to that plays in the heavy metal or rock music that wouldn't say that Black Sabbath was a great starting point and they were the grandfathers of rock and roll and heavy metal.
Yeah.
I don't think that you could find anybody to say that.
Agree.
And they had, I believe it was...
Yeah, so let's talk about...
a little bit about Sabbath.
Yeah,
and we'll
Sabbath.
go on into Ozzy's career a little bit.
Yeah.
So Black Sabbath, 9 total.
9 total, 8
Before Ozzy was ejected from the band.
Right.
He was
Let's just say it.
He was kicked out of the band.
in 79.
He was kicked out in 79.
Yeah.
A bunch of great albums, great music. He was kicked out in 1979 because of drugs and alcohol abuse
and drugs.
He was unreliable to
Yeah.
the band. That they had to end up.
He was a complete fuck up at that time. Let's face it.
He really was.
So.
He was. And and a lot of people built their thoughts and feelings of who Ozzy was as a person based upon how he portrayed himself back in the early 70s and late 60s in that area when he was just getting fucked up all over the place and drinking and snorting lines and doing every drug that was about. There's probably, I don't know if you could even, if you put all the drugs on a piece of paper, you probably, it'd be faster for you to mark off the ones Ozzy didn't do than the ones that Ozzy did do, right?
I can't even imagine, man.
For that,
it's so crazy.
he became the Prince of Darkness simply.
Right.
Right? Because the fact that there was really no other label to give him.
Yeah.
All the shit that he pulled off. I mean, let's talk. So
yeah, let's get into that.
After he leaves, and it all started after he left Black Sabbath. To be honest with you, he was so fucked up on drugs that he left Sabbath in '79, or they got kicked out in '79.
Yep.
And then he met Sharon.
Yeah.
Right. Sharon's father was part of his management company.
Okay, so Sharon knew him when he was in Sabbath, right? But didn't really care.
She didn't care for Ozzy Osbourne as an artist.
As an artist.
And then as she went and saw one of the shows. The second that she saw the show, she was in awe of who he was and his personality
persona.
that came through.
Yeah.
Because of that, she slowly started to fall in love with him. And that story goes on, and we know that story, obviously.
Yeah.
But she actually set up the actual interview with CBS Records for the very first album. And it was with Jet Records.
Jet Records, that's
part
right.
of CBS in that time.
Right.
Not a label that Black Sabbath was with. Set up a meeting for him to go in. and she thought the best idea would be to bring a bunch of doves in to the meeting.
That's a crazy idea, but okay.
I don't really get the meeting of it.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why
Maybe
they
they're
did.
throwing up peace signs or something.
but they did, and in that meeting, Ozzy decided to bite a head off the dove, and that's where all this crazy stuff started.
Yeah.
So he bit the head off the dove. One of the women executives freaked out. They obviously left the room. He bit a head off another dove. This is known fact in the hallway as he was leaving.
Oh, jeez.
And then, that from that point on, 2 years later, one of his fans throws a bat up on the stage.
Yeah. He thought it was a rubber bat.
Thought it was a rubber bat.
Right.
Thought, what better than just, since the whole dove incident, I might as well bite the head off of this rubber bat and make a whole skit of it. And instead, it's a real live bat that he doesn't know, and he spends so much time in shots and everything.
Rabies shots that he has to
and
get.
what he had to go through.
Yeah.
And I've never gone through anything with rabies, but I heard it's pretty intense.
I couldn't even imagine.
And for what he went through for that, I can tell you, I don't think he did it on purpose.
But that's where he really established that reputation of the Prince of Darkness.
The Prince of Darkness, and we could talk quickly about some of the other stuff that's done. He urinated in the Alamo.
Yeah.
You talked about him urinating on a table.
Yeah. I swear to God, I didn't even know that until I read the Pete Way's book, right, A Fast Way Out of Here, where they were at a luncheon. It was Sharon, Pete, and Ozzy. And I guess apparently Ozzy was being a little too loud, and these two businessmen next to them at the table asked Ozzy and them to keep it down. Can you tone it down? So Ozzy kind of okay, looked at it. And then a couple of minutes later, Ozzy gets up on their table and pisses all over their food. So in Sharon's style, she had to pay for their dinner. She did or lunch, whatever. But that's Ozzy for you.
Oh my God,
it's crazy.
And this is not abnormal behavior for him.
No,
wrecking hotel rooms. Right?
But he was so whacked out on drugs.
He was on tour with
alcohol.
Crew.
So,
remember the snorting of the ants.
Oh yeah, snorting ants because he was so pissed off that there was no coke around.
So many stories of Ozzy Osbourne that painted this picture in a lot of people's eyes as being a crazy lunatic,
a madman,
and the politicians were against him. Some of the public was against him. The parents were against him.
Oh, I'm sure Tipper Gore had her.
How about the suicide solution?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How about the backward saying shoot? Yeah. And he had to go into court for that.
I know.
I mean, all the things that Ozzy went through all these years. And, he 1979 came out with his first album.
Yep.
With the legendary and the one and only Randy Rhoads.
Randy Rhoads. Another rest in peace,
Blizzard
Randy.
of Oz.
Yeah.
An amazing album. And unfortunately, he only had 2 albums with Randy.
That's right.
But from top to bottom on both those albums, every song was legendary.
Amazing.
Every song.
Yeah.
I mean, you had great albums. And then, shockingly, doesn't cancel the tour after Randy Rhoads dies in the airplane crash.
And then who filled in?
Brad Gillis. Brad Gillis from
That's
Night
right.
Ranger.
That's right.
And Jack Blades has always told the story to this day that he thought that he lost him. He was done. He was over. And he came back about a year and a half later after doing tours. No albums were made with Brad Gillis. And then
they never recorded an album, right?
They did not.
Right.
And then obviously from that on went to Jakey Lee. Couple albums with him. And then the man who did the most albums with Ozzy.
Yep.
Produced the most amount of music and toured the longest with him.
This was Zakk Wylde. Yeah.
And I just think Zakk was probably crazy enough for it.
Yeah, I think he fit that whole Ozzy guitarist persona perfectly.
I think Randy would have been there for the long haul. Randy was an amazing guitar player.
Yeah.
Do you know what band Randy Rhoads actually played in?
Before coming to Ozzy? No.
Quite right.
Oh, yes, that's right. I did know
Right.
that. I did know that. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So some of you guys that don't know that, he
yeah.
actually was a founding member of Quiet Riot before he actually went to Ozzy.
That was with Kevin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
And then he went with Jakey Lee, performed with Ozzy. But, Jakey Lee's problem was it got too big too fast. And that personality didn't fit him.
Right.
So he backed up a little bit, and then he ended up doing Badlands.
Yeah, I love Badlands. They were great.
With Ray Gillen. That brings me to another point. So we talked a little bit about Ozzy moving on and doing some great albums and all that he went through and getting his. But what about what Black Sabbath went through afterwards?
Yeah.
I mean, Black Sabbath ended up having Rodney James Dio come in.
Talking about having an amazing person come off the bench, Ronnie James Dio, in his own right, had just a true voice, like vocal, rock and roll,
Rainbow
yeah. I mean,
to
to
Black
to
Sabbath.
yeah.
And
yeah.
the album that he came out with, Heaven and Hell, legendary, top
Yeah.
to bottom. I mean, one of the best albums that Black Sabbath, in my opinion, put out.
Yeah.
And Ozzy's Black Sabbath was great, but this one was a phenomenal album.
It was.
And I got to give credit to the late, great Ronnie James, R.I.P.,
Another
as we're
one.
going to say a lot tonight,
I
because
know.
a lot of people we're talking about are unfortunately not here with
They're
us.
dropping, yeah.
So a great album, top to bottom. Mob Rules. It was a very good album, super accomplished, but unfortunately not very much on the charts.
Yeah. It wasn't quite as successful.
It wasn't.
In sales. Yeah.
And then he came back and do one more, Dehumanizer.
Dehumanizer,
And that
yeah.
was the last album that they did. So they had 3 albums with Rodney James Dio.
Yeah.
And there was some other amazing singers in there. People don't even know. Ian Gillan sang for him for a while. Glenn Hughes.
Yeah, so that one I didn't understand
Hughes.
that one. I didn't know that, but I didn't really understand
And
that. Get that
I think one of the most amazing ones, and we talked off the air a little bit, but the most amazing one to me was Ray Gillan, who actually was a singer of Badlands.
Yeah.
Ironically, with Jakey Lee. And then he actually sang with Ozzy. No records, but you can Google Ray Gillan with Black Sabbath.
Okay.
And they do have some footage. I've listened to it. It
Okay.
sounds pretty good. Once again, the late, great, a lot of people are passed away and gone, unfortunately. But he does sound really amazing. A little too much of a higher pitched voice,
Like
I think.
vibrato on his voice.
A little more
or-
for Black Sabbath,
Okay.
but still hit it really well.
Got it.
Yeah, but they did some great albums, Black Sabbath, and then obviously Ozzy came back and did another album with them together, and when they kind of reunited,
Yeah.
and they did a little bit of touring together, and then we talked about some of the festivals that are out there. The Back to the Beginning was an amazing festival.
Well, absolutely. And then, of course, Ozfest, just the whole start of that where, and you mentioned how that got started. And
That got started because they denied him for being on the Lollapalooza tour.
Yeah.
So Sharon basically said, "Fuck you, we're going to do it ourselves."
In typical Osborne fashion,
And they
they're
did
not
it.
going to kowtow
And
to
they-
anybody. So
all the way until 2018.
okay.
And then 2018 was the final year. They tried to bring it back in 2022. They wanted to do like a live stream Ozfest. This was obviously just post-COVID and all these different things. And it's never taken since. But I wouldn't be surprised if something comes now. I think it would actually be a good time for
I
it.
think so too. Just to pay tribute and honor Ozzy and his legacy, that would be bitchin'.
I believe that, we talked about this before, about the money that was raised for Back to the Beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And $192 million, I think, was the final toll of money. And the amount of people that showed there and live streamed the event, all the money they raised. We talked about other artists hopefully following in the footsteps of it. We
Yeah.
talked a little about Aerosmith. And Aerosmith, I listened to a Joe Perry interview, and they talked to him about, do you think this might be something that you guys would do? Because, Steven can't do a whole tour.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's no way he would be able to
But
sustain his voice for a
he
full
could for
tour.
sure at least do 4 or 5 songs,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe do a whole set. Maybe they do a couple different shows, maybe different areas. Maybe he can do a little more than Ozzy did. But maybe they put something together. Maybe they give back to the community or give back to whatever charity they choose.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing for musicians to jump on. They followed the footsteps and the path that was paved by Black Sabbath and Ozzy. Let's follow that same footsteps and path, and let's get into giving back to the community and back to the charities and the people that are needing it the most.
Yeah.
I mean, you've made a lot of money over your years. And some musicians, and most musicians that are still touring at a large rate, like a Guns N' Roses, like a Metallica, like Aerosmith was doing, these bands are financially are in a much better place than a lot of bands that basically didn't make it or are struggling doing club gigs.
Right.
These
right.
bands need to pave the way and say, hey, let's get some different acts together and put these festivals on.
Yeah.
We'll follow it. We're the ones that listen to you and pay for all this stuff anyway.
Well, and I'm even thinking just the bands, again, like we talked about, that Ozzy kind of gave, a boost and head start to when he took them on tour, and that's like Slipknot, Lamb of God. These bands, that would be great, right? What an amazing tradition to continue in honor of Ozzy's legacy. I
Ozzy
think that
had
would be.
a lot of great
Oh man,
artists on
he
Ozfest.
really did.
And then they had the 2 stages. So some
Yeah.
of the artists that were just coming up, they were able to put on the smaller stage too. And then they slowly, some of those bands were able to grow into the main stage.
Right.
And you know, and Lollapalooza did the same thing. I don't want to take anything
Sure,
away from
sure.
Farrell.
Yeah.
That was a great festival within itself.
Yeah.
And they actually have a documentary on Lollapalooza, which is really cool too. Hopefully they'll come up with one for Ozfest. If they haven't, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But hopefully they will, because it tells a story about, you know, not just what we see, but what the behind the scenes are.
Yeah.
And what it takes to do this. I mean, let's give credit to Tom Morello for what he did, being the director of Back to the Beginning.
Yeah,
But
100%.
he was a main drive in a lot of these artists that came and performed and played, and not just Sharon and not just Ozzy, but also him and reaching out to people to come, and one person gets another person, gets another person. And some of these people that were up there performing, like you said, Leslie Hale, amazing,
Oh,
went through and performed quite a
incredible.
bit.
Yeah.
I mean, Nuno, he played probably 9, 10 songs. There was a ton of songs that he played,
And
more
even
than any other
even
artist, because nobody could do.
what David did Shot in the Dark.
He
I mean,
did.
what a great
But
performance.
there was a little bit of controversy
Yeah.
with him, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about, you know, the sound, you know, how they covered Ozzy's songs were amazing. So, you know, the other thing I was going to mention to you is just accolades. If you talk about Sabbath and Ozzy's awards and honors and all that kind of stuff, obviously we know that they were inducted into the Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2006. They also won Grammys. They got the
They did win
Lifetime
Grammys.
Achievement
And
Award.
they also got the accolade for 100 million albums sold.
Correct.
That's a crazy accomplishment. Now,
Crazy.
obviously, that's through Black Sabbath and Ozzy.
And
It was
Ozzy.
a combination.
Correct,
It wasn't
correct.
just one, but the award was given to him. So it's just crazy how that all ties together and how much people really supported him.
Yeah.
But and the funny part about Ozzy is that Ozzy Osbourne, we talked about the darkness of all of his years, and then obviously went into being Ozzy and still had that Prince of Darkness persona.
Oh, yeah.
And
That was his persona,
and
for
that
sure.
that was really where it was. And then when the Osbournes came out, that really changed a lot for them.
Oh,
Did it not?
Absolutely. I think it shed light on a totally different side of Ozzy that none of us really have got to see or know. So when we got to see Ozzy in that, you know, lighter platform, it was like, okay, this is a total lighter, softer side of Ozzy that no one really knew.
I think the parents that used to yell, "Turn that devil music down" from the down the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah.
I got a different idea of who Ozzy really was as a person. I think that, you know, he's lighthearted in the way that he's. I think that the drugs took a lot of factor in his life.
Oh, for sure.
And how he acts and who he is as a parent. And it's kind of like almost like dumb humor, just the way that he is in normal life.
Yeah.
I think it really sheds a light of some of the people that didn't care for him to look at him and either possibly have a sorry side for him, or say, you know, he's not really that bad,
Right.
Or he's really changed his ways,
Right,
I mean,
right.
there's like a bunch of different ways you can
Yeah,
look
there's
at it.
different viewpoints for
But
sure.
that was such a powerful and such a positive and followed show, the Osbournes,
Mm-hmm.
that it really changed a lot of people's ideas. And I guarantee you, at the concert that was there and the people that streamed, there was tons of people that were streaming or watching that last show that probably didn't like or maybe even hated Ozzy
Yeah.
way back when.
Yeah.
And they have changed in their
After
tune.
watching the reality show.
And you know, classic music's classic music.
Yeah.
So we listen to stuff all the way back, and you and I listen to stuff from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and we listen all the way till today,
Uh-huh.
which is why we do this podcast. But classic music is classic music. So there's bands that we listen to, and maybe bands that we didn't care for so much back in the day that wasn't our style, but we listen to more now because that classic sound or we like it.
Yeah.
And I think Ozzy fits in that category. I think there's people that listen to his music, that listen to it, that maybe that wasn't their style of music. Maybe rock and roll wasn't even it.
Yeah.
But these songs, not just Ozzy, but all musicians, have plateaus all over, whether it's in movies or commercials or anthems or concerts, or whether it's at a football game. And people start to listen to it, and they become well known.
Yeah.
That's why our kids know the music they know.
Well, and I think sometimes you just there might be, you know, things that you discover a newfound appreciation that before you might have not really were interested or picked up on, and now you're at a different point in your life where, yeah, I get it. I understand why that music was so cool back then, and and now you listen to it and you like it.
Yeah.
But I was going to tell you real quick, going back to the show, the reality show, Osborne's, the one thing that really hit home for me, and we knew this all along, that Sharon ran the show, right, from being the business manager and, you know, running the household and everything, but how much Ozzy really relied on Sharon. I mean, for everything.
She was a driving force.
Everything. Total driving force.
And here's the part about that, into what you're saying. You know, obviously, there's only 2 kids that were on the show, right?
Right.
Jack and Kelly were the main on the show, and they had a couple of the other ones that came in. A lot of people don't know Ozzy has 6 kids.
Right. That's
he
true.
has 3 with his previous wife before Sharon. 1 had been adopted.
Yeah.
And then he had 3 with Sharon. And the thing about what you're talking about, the driving force, but Ozzy not only could be reliant on Sharon, but he could also break her down, couldn't he?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, the incidents obviously they had in the past where it got physical, right? And at one point he was trying to strangle her and had to call the cops, and they actually were going to press charges against him for attempted murder, actually, because the way he was so violent with her. But of course, Sharon declined to press charges,
and
it went away. But yeah, and that's what she said. She said, "Look, it wasn't Ozzy, the Ozzy I know. It was the drugs and the alcohol that was fueling that." So,
and in the 4 years that he had the affair with his hairdresser,
yeah, that's right,
4 years, and it drove Sharon to almost ODing to try to kill herself on drugs, on medications.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not.
They had their ups and downs.
They did, just like any relationship.
Any relationship in a more extreme way, maybe.
I was just going to say, I think that the drugs, the alcohol, the atmosphere, the lifestyle, everything played into a much different and more magnified role of their relationship.
Good word. Magnified.
And they were really, really. It could be a really fucked up dysfunctional relationship. Yeah. But there was a lot of love there. Yeah. Sharon was with Ozzy for 40 plus years.
No, they really, really loved each other.
They did. And you could see by when there was some photos and pictures, and you can look of Sharon watching Ozzy on his last performance. Mm-hmm. And you could see how much she really admired him as a person.
Didn't she, like, at one point bring out, like, his like, staff or stick or something like that or something, because he'd called for it, and then she immediately came out and gave it to him. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's just, there was a lot of love there too, and then obviously they showed that was something, you don't, with AI you don't know what's real and what's not anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
But you see a lot of pictures where she's grieving with Ozzy, you know, after he's passed away or whatever the case is, and she's grieving with a picture of him. Whatever is true about, she has all those feelings and those thoughts. Mm-hmm. And regardless of going back to the very beginning we talked about the assisted suicide, regardless of what side it was, whether she did or did not have a hand in it in helping, and if she did, that's their decision. Right. You're still going to grieve, and you're still going to feel like, I lost my best friend, I lost my husband, even if you had assisted and helped.
Absolutely. No, I mean, and especially again, their love ran deep, and you know, I think, you know, whatever, if there was a decision that was made, it was done with love between the two of them.
I believe it was too. So, I know that Kelly and Jack came out to quickly, put an end to that.
The rumors and stuff.
The rumors that are out there. But, you know, the rumors are pretty heavy. They're pretty hard right now. You know, things are going to surface. Yeah. You know, things, all kinds of these questions that we had, including back to the beginning, we talked about the band that got ousted from the concert. That we still don't have the answer on that.
Yeah, we don't have that, but I hope that comes out, because I'm just curious as hell.
It will for sure. Yeah. And, you know, once again, we talk about all these different bands and stuff, and I hopefully they fall in the footsteps. I really hope that we have some more of these shows. It'd be amazing to have something like this. Yeah. You know, I mean, what else can we really say? I mean, this is paying tribute to a true legend. Yep. And once again, Ozzy's been out of the spotlight for quite a while now, so it's going to hit people on a different level. There's some people where Ozzy and Black Sabbath was their favorite band of all times, and they had such love and passion for that band, and there's no other band that's as good as them. There's a lot of, like myself, I was always a Black Sabbath fan. A couple of the bands I played in, we did some covers. Ozzy Osbourne, you know, once again, I mean, he was there through my whole life. Yeah. Loved Ozzy, loved a lot of the stuff that he did.
But, you know, his health was deteriorating, and, you know, obviously the Parkinson's, you know, was taking hold. But I got to tell you, I would be very surprised if the cause of death is actually related to Parkinson's. I don't think it is. Yeah. I think it's something else.
It's possible. Well, you know, he went off his medications.
Yeah.
I've heard he went off medications far before the concert because the medications were damaging him so much just to be able to perform this concert.
Okay.
And the will that we have as people to be able to push yourself to do something, like we talked about with cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have cancer, you have to have that willpower. That willpower is what drives you.
Mm-hmm.
And that willpower, when he went to the rehearsals with like we talked about, the fact that he didn't look well and he was pushing and willing himself to do this concert, it meant everything to him to do it.
Yeah.
His one last spotlight.
Yeah.
His one last show.
One shining show that he can get out there and do what he always loved to do, and that's perform in front of his fans.
There's no better way to go out. Regardless of how he went, there's no better way to go. I think that anybody could write the book. That's how they'd write
That's
the book.
absolutely 100% for sure.
So people like, unfortunately, who's passed away, like Hulk Hogan, these guys.
That was a shocker because 71 years old and seemingly healthy, and then all of a sudden we find out today that he passed.
And kind of back in the spotlight too, was he not?
He was
political
very
spotlight.
Political, but he was also doing this new show that was promoting freestyle wrestling and all that stuff. So he had a lot of things going on, and
it's a shocker, especially cardiac arrest.
I think it was cardiac arrest.
Ozzy was a different story because we knew it was coming.
It was coming eventually.
Then you had Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Yeah,
and that's a crazy
they say
one
it happens
too.
in threes, man. It's crazy.
That's absolutely nuts. I mean, he's out there, and that story's sad in itself.
That's really, really sad.
I had a hard time to even read that.
Yeah,
but he was swimming with his daughter.
I know.
Got a high current.
Thank God. I mean,
the surfers came in and they saved his
daughter.
But
they couldn't save him.
They couldn't save him.
What a
They brought him 45
story.
minutes of CPR trying to bring him back to life. And the guy's just out on a family vacation.
That's
and
so
passed
sad.
away.
God,
it's
that's
so
so
sad the way some of these things happen. So,
Yeah.
Once again, if you could write your own path to do what Ozzy did and live 76 years and be in that status for all those years
and go out the way that you would want to go out,
regardless of how it is.
Regardless of how, yeah.
Absolutely, man. We stand behind you 100%. Well, R.I.P. Ozzy Osbourne.
R.I.P.
This is definitely something that's a sad day for us to bring a podcast. But hey, we're going to bring some fun ones after this.
Yeah.
So make sure, listen to us here, Spotify and YouTube. That's where you can check us out. And then Instagram and Facebook. You can just check out all of our social stuff, and that way you'll know what we're going to be having coming up.
Yeah, we got some good stuff planned. So
what the next pods are going to be. We're going to be doing an out-of-town show in September.
Yeah.
We're going to see Tom Kiefer in LA Guns in Phoenix. We're going to do some live recordings probably when we're out there. We'll also do some videos and stuff too, and we'll share the whole process of everything too with you guys in the show, and some live stuff too as well. We're excited about that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So once again, Instagram and Facebook, you can see all our social stuff. We do appreciate all the time that you guys spend with us, man. We really do. We end this with a very, very heavy heart, and we want to say everybody related to Ozzy, all the band members, all the family, we want to give our wishes and condolences to the family and all the loved ones.
Yeah. And just makes you, want to hug your own family members and just, be very appreciative of what we have in our lives and how blessed we are.
You never know when the time's
You just don't know, man.
You never know what's going to come. I just had, not to veer off, but I just had a good friend of mine pass away about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago on a heart attack, 62 years old. It happens. It's crazy. Well, this is Rock and Ramble signing off.
All right,
we really
guys.
appreciate the time with you guys. We'll check you guys out next time. Make sure to listen for our next podcast. It's going to be a lot more upbeat
not
than
as
this
heavy.
one. Yeah, not as heavy. It's going to be a great one. You guys, we're out.
All right, later.